Hi everyone. This is just a recording of lecture 4. Um, so I'm just going to go or introduce you to what the residential students has done. So we started out with a short introduction or example of the parametric system method. So it's example 6 in your study notes, the parametric method. So on this method is you are a junior colleague who forgot to complete the elemental cost analysis for the basic building cost of a new project, which has been ready for planning has to be ready for a planning meeting with the client later that morning, and comes to you for help. He has only completed the estimate for the 5 elements in table 2 on the next page. So you realize that it's impossible to complete the elemental analysis for the remaining elements in time, and that the client has to be kept satisfied this morning with an approximate elemental analysis. Okay, so similar to what we discussed last week and that example. So make use of the historical cost data of similar projects in FireSafe and a parametric cost method to estimate the basic building costs only by using the elements already estimated in your parameters. Okay, so this is the 3 projects that is highlighted in the example. So we went through that previously. So you will see everything that's included here. So you've got project 1, 2, and 3 here, and then you compare what you have done so far in table 2, which is on the next slide, and then you just take out those items and then utilize those items to get to the amount of work that you've done. So I'm not going to over explain that again. We've done in the previous lecture. So these are the items that you use, and then you continue to add up the ones that you've already calculated, and also to see what your current rate per square meter is that you've calculated to up to date. And then you go through the process of determining the parametric system. So from your table of the historical projects, you calculate what those items contribute, and you calculate the average price, and then you extrapolate that. Okay, so that's just a revision of last time. So what I'm going to, or what I did with the students, residential students, is to give them the following example. So this will be on the board, and then they've got the opportunity to actually complete the following. So if you want to do this exercise yourself, you can then stop the presentation here, and then just do the estimate based on this as some exercise before I show you the answer on the next slide. So that's what the residential students did in class. So you can just have a look at that, whether you can actually are proficient with this, and then just mark your own estimate. Okay, so from the historical project, we could identify which items should be included. We calculated what the contribution of these items to the specific projects were, and then just calculated what contribution it made to the project. You can see it's between 18 and 39%, so quite a big deviation. But then if you work out the average, is about 29% that these items contributed. So if you extrapolate that with your rate per square meter, which you've calculated before, you get to a rate of 3,592 Rand. Okay, so very simple, but it still can contribute to 5 or 6 marks in a test or in an exam. So please be mindful of that. Then for today's lecture, I'm just going to cover the last bit of the estimation methods and the theory of that before we actually start getting into the practical example. So you will have the opportunity now in the next week. I'm going to post the first formal, informal, if you want to call it that, so that you can start getting through that. So the detailed methods is the elemental cost analysis method and up to component level. Okay, so we've looked at the analysis method so far. Then the comprehensive quantities method. So the comprehensive method, we're going to delve into that, very similar to your accurate quantities. Your accurate quantities will be your BOQ that you produce and that you go out on tender with. So they are obviously more complex estimation methods than the previous ones. They take longer to complete and most accurate of all the methods. So looking at your elemental estimate method first, we're going to spend some time on this after today's lecture still. So this is just the overview and the theory part of it. So it is divided into different submissions or components. Your component amounts is real amounts of different components expressed in a suitable quantitative unit or measurement, and the component tariff monetary value applicable to the different components expressed in terms of a specific unit. So here's where you have your grouping of your elements that are related to your trades in your BOQ. Okay, so if you have a price BOQ, you can easily calculate your elemental rates or tariffs that you need to include. So it's possible applications are considerable savings in time can be achieved if you have a proper setup. So I'm going to share a example with you guys on Excel that you can use whenever. WinQS also has a nice example that you can use, which already has the necessary links, but some of you might not have that the opportunity to actually download WinQS or so. And then the elemental analysis method on component level is exclusively structured for processing of information included in detailed sketch plans. So obviously you need a lot of detail to do a elemental estimate at component level. So the advantages, it's the interpretation of results are relatively simple, far more accurate than the previous methods, very suitable for cost analysis, closely related to the process. The disadvantages is the time that you need. When detailed information is lacking, you have to apply a lot of assumptions. So when you get to your assignment, you will see that yes, you will have to make some assumptions to improve your estimate. It's more complicated than previous methods. Okay, so just a practical example, I'm not going to go into this. In your study notes, you will see a very simple example. Previously, in the module, I included a more intricate example, and I found that it was just too much for some of the students. Some of you who have worked on the elemental estimate might find this a little bit trivial, but the processes is the most important thing that I want to assess going forward. So you will see this drawing in your annexures of your study notes and with a hand drawing. So where your dimensions is taken down, this is how you usually do your BOQ and your descriptive quantification dimensions. So you should be very familiar with the processes involved in this, where you divide your project into the primary elements and then and everything that falls underneath that. So you've got your primary elements, the element of foundations, components, etc., etc. Okay, so then getting to our comprehensive quantities. This is, as I mentioned, very similar to your BOQ method. So, but it's a tweak of how you measure your comprehensive quantities or your BOQ, where you don't have all of the information available, but that information that you do have available, you measure as if it's going to go in your BOQ. So it is basically working with preliminary information to start producing your BOQ that you're going to use to go out on tender with. So it requires required for different purposes. It's for cost estimation is one, and differs only very slightly from the elemental method of analysis on the component level. Okay, the thing is, you're still grouping your components in accordance to the guideline as per the dim sheets shown in the previous few slides. The components amounts are mainly subdivided into items and measurements. So what you're basically doing is you've got your groupings of your quantities as per your elemental method up to component level, but then underneath each one of those you take what contributes to that component and you break it down further. So it's the trades that's included into that component, you break it down further, depending on the amount of information you've got and the time that you've got available to actually do that breakdown. So the measurement sections are usually your foundations, structure, walls, roofs, exterior finishes, interior wall finishes, your floors, ceilings, windows, accessories, services, and external works. So you can see it's starting to look a lot more like the trades that you compile your BOQ from. Okay, so the total of the represented is represented by the total of all the different sections and values together with the provision of preparations of unforeseen expenses. So the advantages is it's more accurate based on real quantities. The costs are grouped into sections. Building costs is shown as a method, thus suitable for cost analysis, for instance, for your BOQ. Quantities are determined in a structured way. And then the disadvantages is obviously the time. It takes more time, and to apply this method, a detailed information is only available at the last few stages before you go out on tender. Not as structured as the elemental method. There's no guidelines on this method, although it's based on your standard system and your guide to elemental estimation. It's a combination of the two. It's almost like the middle ground between your elemental estimate and your final BOQ. It requires considerable experience because you need to make sure that and understand which items are not included in this estimation method. Whenever you do the estimation, where you will then allow provisional sums or contingencies, etc., to fill that gap of the information that you don't have. Tariffs should be adopted continuously to make provision for market movements and kept up to date. Okay. Then we get to our accurate quantities, and you will see the theory on this is also not too much because it's covered in other modules, but it's the accurate quantities are needed for all BOQ contracts, taking down all item amounts in details from the drawings strictly in accordance with the stipulations. Guidelines like your standard system or your SANS measurement system or your British system. There's a whole lot of different measurement systems that you can use. Exclusive purpose of accurate quantities is to compile a BOQ to attract competitive tenders. Then the price BOQ is the final and most accurate estimate and serves as a basis for the evaluation of all preceding cost information tenders. The advantages: most accurate method, items measured in detail. All possible costs on projects are included in the estimated amount. The quantities are determined in a structured way. Disadvantages is obviously the time. To apply the method, detailed information is needed to actually build up your descriptions and your quantities. It requires considerable experience, and the item rates should sometimes be built up by the QS or CM. Okay, so you won't always have historical rates that you can use in your BOQ, and thus you will have to build up your rates in your BOQ. Thank you, everyone. So this is a very short just introduction to detailed methods, but obviously, as you will know, the detailed methods, it comes down to the practical work of it. So in the next few sessions, we'll focus on that much more. Thank you very much.